Check 1, 2, check We're live. Harry's on. I don't know if you guys saw the third chat link I posted is the correct one.
Yeah, you were really having a rough go.
It was rough. Yeah. I've tried to stream multiple times. This is my third time putting the stream link in and it working.
Word.
Apologies.
No, you're good. I get a chat disabled when I try to use that last link.
Really?
Uh-huh.
I do too.
Okay, hold on. Let me
Hey,
try
Phil, look at how much I care. Not much.
I know. Well, Ryan usually cares quite a bit.
That's true. That's true.
I wasn't sure he was coming. I wanted to be ready.
Are
try
we
the one...
are we gone? Are we good? Are we cool?
Well, hold on. Try that new one I just posted in our Uber chat message.
Let me try that new one. Try that new one. No.
No go?
Nope.
No go.
Man, it's working for me.
Weird.
Hold on.
Maybe
Nope.
You're adminning it?
Nope. That stream. Man, I'm having so much trouble.
You can take a minute to just figure it out and then post it and not worry about the 5 people that'll be in that chat when it happens.
I'm just worried. Man, I'm really worried.
You're good. You're good.
This one's going to work, but I'm not sure if the link I set out, it keeps ending on its own, and I don't know why. That one should work.
There you go. That's cool. So don't worry about the chat part. Just worry about the audio bit.
All right.
Why is it experiencing these?
Man, I don't know if the right... I may have to send out the new link. Gosh darn it. Gosh darn it.
Alan, we could have been neighbors this whole time.
Gosh darn it.
Right? My dad, Pennsylvania to California.
That idiot.
What a
Alan,
jerk
we
that
could have been
guy
neighbors
was.
this whole time.
Yeah. Right?
God.
And now, right?
Yeah, it's
Now
not
he
Father's
doesn't
Day
go to
anymore, so I forget that
Pennsylvania
all
to
dads
California.
exist. That idiot.
What a
Alan, we
jerk
could have
that
been
guy
neighbors
was.
this whole time. Yeah.
Right?
God.
And now, right?
Yeah, it's
Now
not
he
Father's
doesn't
Day.
go to
It's like how
so I
everyone
haven't been
back
back
in
there
the
for a while.
gay in like 2 days.
What a
Alan, we
jerk
could have
that
been
guy
neighbors
was.
this whole time. Yeah.
Right?
One day.
Yep. I only care for actually.
Yeah,
That's not
it's not
true.
Father's
In
Day.
San
It's like
Diego,
how
Pride,
everyone back
the
in the
Pride lasts
gay
for 2
in
months.
like
You get all of the June
Alan, we could have been
Pride.
neighbors this whole time.
And then the Pride in San Diego happens in July. So
Yeah,
it's not
it's not
fair.
Father's
So
Day.
San
It's like
Diego
how-
Pride
yes,
is
yes, yes.
in
Some of
July
the,
for 2
some of
months.
the-
So you get all of the June
not
Pride.
Philly, not Pittsburgh
And
cities
then the Pride in San Diego
in
happens in July.
Pennsylvania kick very strange. Yes, yes, yes.
And
Some of
then
the, I think Harrisburg
all of the
is in
June
July. Not
Pride.
Philly, not Pittsburgh
And
cities
then the Pride in San Diego happens in July.
in
I
Pennsylvania.
think try to
kick very
avoid
strange.
LA and Long
Yes,
Beach
yes,
and
yes.
Orange Pride.
So I think
Crazy
Harrisburg
big.
is in
So
July.
like we're gonna
Not
do ours
Philly,
in the
not
middle of
Pittsburgh
July.
cities
Pride in
in-
San Diego happens in July.
in
I
Pennsylvania.
think so for a while I just thought
Yeah.
Pride was July and Orange Pride because that's crazy big. Like we're gonna do ours in the middle of July. It's like a whole thing. So for a while I just thought Pride was July and Orange Pride because that's crazy big. We're gonna do ours in the middle of July. It's like a whole thing.
Phil the Crow,
So for a
so
while
Phil
I just
Wendy
thought
Boy,
Pride
that's how you
was
feel.
July and Orange Pride.
Let's just go.
Alright, cool.
We're gonna do ours
Down
As
with
good as
that.
we're going to be.
It's like a whole thing.
Phil the Crow,
So for a
so
while I
Phil
just
Wendy
thought
Boy,
Pride
that's how you
was
feel.
July and Orange Pride.
Let's
Hi,
just go.
welcome to the USL
As good as
show,
we're going to be.
which is
It's like a whole
a thing that I haven't said in a while. Hi, welcome due to unforeseen circumstances. We haven't really had a whole lot to talk about here at the USL show. Command due to unforeseen circumstances. Very high. Haven't really had a whole lot to talk about here at the USL show. All the time, command due to unforeseen cheesemongers. Very high. Cheesemonger. The second half of that part. That one at the USL. I'm your host, Evan Malone. I'm here with myself, cheesemonger. Cheesemonger, cream in your Irish coffee, which I'm having. I'm your host, Evan Malone. I'm here.
It's kind of warm for an Irish coffee, is it not?
It is a cold drink. Cream in your Irish coffee, which I'm having.
So an iced Irish coffee sounds actually warm for an Irish coffee.
Yeah, you make your own cold brew and then you have cream in your Irish coffee or freeze, which I'm having.
That sounds iced Irish coffee. Sounds actually well done. Sorry, I doubted
you make your own cold brew. It's actually more Irish cream than coffee.
That sounds iced Irish coffee. Sounds actually well done. Sorry, I doubted
you make your own cold brew. It's actually more Irish cream than coffee. The California delegation is here. Alan Underwood.
Iced Irish coffee. Sounds actually well done.
Can't find any.
Sorry, I doubted
How's it going?
It's actually more Irish.
I'm having.
The California delegation is here.
I'm doing the old fashioned tonight.
Sorry,
How's it going?
I'm
having.
The California delegation is here.
I'm doing the old fashioned.
Farther proving that I'm
How's it going? I'm having.
the California delegation is here.
Grandpa,
And then farther proving that I'm one half of the stats department. It is Sacramento's favorite California delegation is here. And then favorite brony for sure. Favorite one half of the stats department. It is Sacramento's favorite.
Hey, it's nice to be back and as aggressively Irish as ever.
Favorite brony for sure. Favorite one half of the stats department. It is
That's well said, I think.
That's actually funny. That was my motto in high school.
Favorite
Favorite brony for sure. Favorite both academically and socially.
Yeah, that's well said, I think.
That's actually funny. That was my motto in high school. You know, both academically and socially.
Yeah, that's well said, I think.
That's actually funny. That was my motto. Why the Western Conference got the hookup and Eastern Conference
That's well said, I think.
clearly tipping hands for why the superiority Conference got, or even having the hookup how everyone on Phoenix Rising is COVID. So clearly tipping hands for why the superiority Conference got, or even having the hookup how everyone on Phoenix Rising is COVID. Not clearly tipping hands for the superiority Conference, or even having everyone laptops, phones, and to never tweet anything.
We're jumping right in today, aren't we, Evan?
Yeah, we are. You know, because we Band-Aid on parts.
We're jumping right in today, aren't we,
So
Evan?
controversy. Yeah, we are. You know, because we Band-Aid on parts.
We're jumping right in today, aren't we,
So
Evan?
controversy. Yeah, we are. The president, Jack's Militia, which is the largest supporters group of the Charlotte.
Jumping right in
Our
today,
friends.
aren't we?
He got the president, Jack's Militia, which is the largest supporters, whose name I'm forgetting because I don't like the way talked to them on that have opinions like that. But whose name I'm forgetting. Yeah, basically everyone in Jack's Militia got blocked by the majority owner of the Charlotte Independent because the majority owner of the Charlotte Independent has tweeted, but whose name I'm forgetting. Yeah, very. Everyone in Jack's Militia got blocked by the majority owner of the Charlotte racist things. The majority owner of the Charlotte in the past has tweeted, probably, as well as conspiracy theories about COVID-19 not being a real thing, which is almost more troubling than tweeting about how you don't value the lives. 70% of the people not potentially a thing, which as the majority owner of the soccer club tweeting about how you don't value the lives. 70% of the people. I'm not going to say that you as the majority owner of the can just kind of like Donald Sterling club, only because I don't think there's 900 people chomping at the bit just kind of like Donald Sterling. I'm also not going to act like there's 900 people chomping at the bit just kind of like Donald Sterling itself. I think this isn't necessarily a lost cause, or at least I'm also not going to act like there's 900 people chomping at the bit just kind of like Donald Sterling itself. This is someone that should never go on social media or have any kind of public-facing job. Like, this dude should just write paychecks and lose his money, never go in silence, or have any kind of public-facing job. You know, that's the last we hear of this guy. We're all the better for his money, never go in silence, or have
Describe exactly what he did.
You know, yeah, that's the last we hear of this guy. We're all the better for his money,
Which is what? It's basically describe exactly what he did. Right-wing politics being tweeted regularly, racist comments. It's basically describe exactly what he did.
Basically, you can tell it's that because none of us are volunteering to read what he said.
I
None
know.
of us will read what he said.
It's embarrassing. It's just shocking to me that the guy.
Basically, you can tell it's that because none of us are volunteering to read what he said. None of us will read what he said.
It's all a lot of like Buy American.
Basically, you can tell it's that because none of us are volunteering to read what he said. None of us will read what he said.
It's all a lot of like Buy American.
Basically,
yeah. Today apparently it's been a lot of anti-China stuff. It's all a lot of like Buy American. Yeah. There's a lot of Rubio. Today apparently it's been a lot of anti-China stuff. It's all a lot of like a lot of just really like American isolation business practicey type China stuff. It's all like a lot of just really like
a lot of people are comparing him to the NBA, who banned that owner or like kicked
a
lot of people are comparing it to that, and I'm having a hard time comparing him to the NBA, who banned that owner or like kicked a lot of people are comparing. I don't know how long Charlotte's going to be around, so I don't know if this is something we just wait out for a year if you're in the league. But you know, it'd be really nice if someone. I don't know how long Charlotte's going to be around, so I don't know if this is something we just wait out for a year if you're in the league. But black players, it'd be really nice still playing for you. I don't know how long Charlotte's going to be around, so I don't know if this is something embarrassing out for a year if you're in the league. But black players, it'd be really nice.
Yeah, it's embarrassing like that, but to me, that kind of thing is he's actively blocking supporters, not only supporters, but key supporters. I mean, it's embarrassing like that, but to me, that kind of is reprehensible as what he's been blocking supporters, not only supporters. You start shutting down the communication between some of your biggest and most reprehensible as what it's just a stupid business decision on top of being shutting down, racist asshole. I mean, some of your biggest, you're free to be a racist asshole all you want. It's just a stupid money for it if you do it in public, how much he is. Shutting down, but racist asshole. I mean, you're free to be a racist asshole all you want. You get rid of your supporters, money for it if you do it in public, bring the most attention to your club, but people who are the front face of the fans. This is the last people you want to shut down or alienate, but doing that intentionally. And to me, that's the face of the fans. This is, I'm doing that. I'm shut down or 100% back and intentionally saying, we're not going to games, we're not going to. To me, that's the face of the get rid of the club. I'm going to lose money in that year. We have 100% pulling the back and intentionally saying, we're not going to players. Yes, we love these guys, great players, we get rid of the club, but transfer, I'm going to lose money, get a contract somewhere else because you don't deserve to be on this club who has a owner who's going to just basically discriminate against you for a large portion of it and turn every other neutral fan against you for the rest of it's just basically stupid beyond all reason. I can't see how someone could ever think every other neutral fan against you for the rest of there's no words. There's no word beyond all reason. I can't see that how someone could ever think every other neutral fan against you for the rest of
I've done us all the pleasure of scrolling through his timeline of the last day, which I don't have enough alcohol. But we seem to fall into three categories, two of which I actually don't really have any problem with. One of them is, we shouldn't be doing business deals with China, which whatever, you're the guy with a lot of money, you're entitled to those opinions. Then we have the, why are people out protesting and COVID, all that stuff? Which again, whatever, it's a free country. You're entitled to your fucking opinion, and I've never been the stick to sports guy, so go for it. But maybe retweeting the weird President Trump is so far behind in the polls, and it reminds me of election night, or like, oh, Governor Cuomo's really bad at his job in New York City, when you're like the owner of a sports franchise in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's just kind of like dumb and weird. And like, no one cares. Like, you just kind of remind me of like your weird aunt on Facebook, where it's like, that's nice. I didn't need to know you have these opinions. I know you have these opinions now. And if you're going to lose a lot of money by having those opinions with people that very much cared about your club, when, hey, not a lot of people cared about your club, man. More power to you, but like the league should maybe, again, I don't think it's like a thing where they can just go, bang, here's a new owner. But like, maybe a little bit of like, hey, dude, maybe we don't go a little crazy on the retweeting political stuff, because I don't know if you know this, but if you retweet something, everyone can see it.
That's the thing, is it's just reinforcing over
so it's
and
either
over
you're
and
like
over.
Racist and dumb, or you're just outwardly racist. And I hope it's that you're racist and dumb.
Well, at this point, isn't it kind of hard to think that he's not dumb? Because at the very least,
well, I mean, that's fair.
Well, and I'm not looking for like, hey, he believes politically stupid things. I'm not even going to go there. I think it shows how dumb he is if he's a business owner who's also talking about like world business politics, who you'd think like, okay, this guy's in touch with like world economics, and I can try to see his point of view. But then he does something where he's the head of a business and he's tweeting things that make his business look bad. That's where you start. It's what Pony was saying. Like, if you're a businessman these days, you use Twitter as a platform to push your business. You use it as someone to represent, a place where you can send a representation, a visual representation, and words of a representation of your company. And this guy is so out of touch that he doesn't realize that he's making his business look bad. He doesn't know his audience. Right. That's another one, is that we all know what soccer fans are like. We are the opposite of what he's putting on Twitter. Let's just say that. So the guy's just really out of touch.
At least I think the hardcore, the people that are putting the most of their money into his business, that are supporting it financially the biggest, are probably left. Well, I mean, we know a couple of those guys personally. They're very left-leaning and aren't really going to have a lot of sympathy for someone who has been retweeting and liking on Twitter a lot of things, like, and hasn't really stopped, which is the other weird part of the last couple of days, that go in the opposite direction of those people. And not that he should, I don't know. No, I don't think people should be like tagging the club or like not supporting the players and things like that. But like, and it's a weird line, because it's like, no, I don't want him to just not be the owner of this team for having really weird, bad political views. But like, he's the only owner that has ever done this in USL. And like, I know Eric Winalda got fired for like kind of obscure things, but like, I would have much more expected it to be like him or Alexi Lawless than this dude.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at like some of the FC Cincinnati stuff, the coach in the locker room, and the lack of support around some of the players, like actions, to levels that exist in soccer, there's like the family level, where it's been an inclusive, and then there's like the business approach to the game. Like, I think with this instance, it's less, this guy's a right-wing guy, we disagree with his politics. I think this goes even further. Like, mentioned something about transgender athletes violating rights by competing against other female athletes. Like, when you get to that point of the phobia that exists that relates to what you're tweeting about, political views, and as an owner, have those political views. But I think you start getting to a where backing a certain group of, we can be like, all right, draw the line here, and we need to kind of bridge the gap in culture identity of what soccer is and the business side of what soccer is, and the great teams do that. Groups like maybe FC Cincinnati, Charlotte are those two things separate and not about how one affects the other, interacts with the other, and I think the problem lies.
And the irony to me too is that you have two of maybe the most outspoken guys in the league about racial inequality on your payroll, and you're still like, no, it's all right. Like, dude, fuck
at
you,
that point,
It's
token.
simple as that. They are. Whether he wants to commit it or not, they are. And if he's going to keep doing this and doubling down and tripling down, it's probably going to hurt the team in the long run. I mean, let's be honest. I've been watching this league since 2014, and Charlotte's been one of the teams in the East I like and have supported him. That's kind of gone now with the way this owner's acting. I mean, they've gone from being my neutral pick to not being it anymore.
I love that you brought up Brandon Miller being on that man's payroll. And
Brandon
that's
and Hugh are both there.
Hugh, thank you. Sorry, I forgot Hugh was there. That's terrible.
Yeah, that both of those guys, again, friends of ours. But
the most outspoken guys about Black Lives Matter, the most, in my opinion, the most respectful messages out of the USL has been coming from those two guys. And that show that we listen to, and they have a new one out that everyone should go listen to as well for Backyard Footy, Black Lives Matter episode 2. I mean, these guys have been killing it, and this is just like a tone deaf owner who hasn't even listened to his own players and doesn't seem to care about his own players, about their message, has no empathy for what those guys are feeling, despite, like, no matter what he feels, this man doesn't have empathy for what these guys have gone through or felt in their lives. And that's what's really killing me here and keeps me up at night thinking about.
Well, and it's like, I've gone to Hugh and Brandon and been like, yo, I don't know anything about this. Like, what's up? Not this specifically, but in the past, other things where I'm like, hi, gay suburban white kid, help me out here. So it's not like they're unapproachable either, or it's not like they're very brash about it, or they're very like angry about their position. Like, they're willing to have those conversations. You just got to be kind of not a dick about it.
Well, and I thought about going to them about this. And I was just thinking to myself, like, what can they say? It's their, like, are they going to go against their owner?
They handled it better than I would have, which is crazy.
I agree.
Even because I asked that question. I went, how do you, that sucks. And Brandon went, no, I'm trying to help him understand where we're coming from and see that side of things. And apparently that was a bit of a lost cause from my perspective.
Yeah. Well, I mean, these guys are smart. Very. The one thing that was nice is that the USL, once they did make their announcement about Black Lives Matter, they went straight to Hugh, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Not Brandon Miller, but Hugh. And so he wrote the statement that the USL the USL Championship adopted and was their Black Lives Matter post. So I thought that was really smart. I thought that was really good. That was nice. But these guys got to be biting their tongues right now. We haven't talked to them, so we're not speaking for them. But if I were them, I'd be, my tongue would be bleeding at this point.
Hey, the good news is, if we're all looking for a distraction from this terrible world, the USL is coming back. So before we talk about how they're coming back and where they're coming back and when they're coming back, Goose, who I mentioned previous, asked us a question about 10 hours ago, so earlier this afternoon. How are you dealing with balancing the excitement for soccer return with the reality of the pandemic still very much a concern?
Question of the hour right here. This is it.
I mean,
it's a super balanced question because he was a little bit crazier with not crazier. He was a little bit stronger with his feelings. Like, how is anybody excited about the USL when the pandemic is as dangerous as it is? This is a very balanced question, and I personally am like sticking with that balance where I'm kind of ridiculously excited about soccer coming back. But I hope, I'm trying to keep a healthy appreciation for how dangerous COVID is out there. And if we have live games with live fans, those fans better be careful, right?
Yeah. I'm excited that these guys, that at least some of these guys that we've gotten to know over the years, are able to do their jobs. I'm sure they're very excited to go and do them. I think it'll be nice to have all domestic soccer back. We've seen it work well in Europe. With, I think a couple teams have had cases here and there. My problem, and it's been my problem since this whole thing started, is the reaction to COVID state to state has been widely varied. For better or for Texas. And then, our healthcare system is not one that enables us to go get tested and things like that at a super steady clip. But I'm sure it's a little bit of an exception with sports leagues because they have capital behind them and they drive economies a little bit in some ways. So, if it's closed doors, if it's safe, if these essentially operate as preseason games, that's great. I really think it's weird that MLS went down to Florida of all places. I hope USL, they're doing it regionally, which is probably smart. I think we've wanted them to do regions in general for a little bit now, especially Phil. St. Louis back to the West, please. And then, I'm excited. It's cool. These guys are going to come back. We'll get to see two MLS2 teams play each other and no one will care again. So that's always a nice constant to have back in life. But, at the same time, I just worry that if you go to play, the Rowdies or something, people aren't going to be careful around you, which sucks if you're careful. So, you just got to really drive home that, the people just do a medial task and wear a mask. They'll be okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm still thinking even no matter what happens at the games, I'm not going to a live game this year. 100%, no, I'm not going.
And, I think it is nice that the MLS2 sides have decided to get ahead of the curve there and just not let people in anyway. Oh, no one shows up. I went to a bunch of those games. It's fine.
Yeah, you did. You did.
And what sucks is they couldn't count. Well, I didn't. No. I was going to say they couldn't count me as attendance because I didn't pay for a ticket, but they couldn't. Alan, your thoughts?
I'm in the pony boat as well. I've talked about this before I did, because I know there's a lot of people who these jobs to make money and support their families. And so I want them to, but am I going to support section match? Probably not. If they have it at USD members down on the pitch, and I very recourse being comfortable, getting it, leaving late, but the more things are happening, the world Arizona announced that their gatherings at 50, so things are the wrong direction for me to feel comfortable going out to a match. I will watch the game a couple times and cheer and maybe do some Zoom, fan and do that gig, which I think can be enjoyable. But going to a match is reckless. For me personally, terrified about going back to the term and what that's going to look like in the fall. So I'm I don't. Then I absolutely need to for my own personal well-being and life and my neighbors. Very in person this season. There's players who are itching because this is how people who work behind the scenes and team, all of those folks make the game happen. I want it to happen because I want them to, but personally probably won't be.
Well, real quick, and I guess we should actually talk about how they're going to play these games. League One Fun, who are some good friends of ours, occasionally when Jason's not too busy forgetting where he came from and having terrible music takes, we're friends. But they released a podcast about an hour ago. They had Matt Hominoff, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Union Omaha, on, which was a really great interview, as well as Darren Van Tassel, who's Tormenta's president. Georgia Tormenta is going to play a game with fans in their stadium. They're going to be the first American team in which to do so, which, you know, I'm all about, like, oh, we're going to be the first, you know, because it sounds cool and all that, but maybe not this one. Maybe not this one. Maybe be the first team to, I don't know, throw out a bunch of head coaching resumes out of a helicopter. And then hire Frank Yallop. But don't be the first team to play a sporting event with fans in your arena during a pandemic, because I will say there is a non-zero chance of someone getting it. And that's just not, we don't want that, do we?
Well, I think we're a national podcast, so I think we need to address the fact that this is totally based on, Evan, we were talking about this, like, it's totally based on state rights, right?
Yep.
And so that's like,
yeah.
If you're a libertarian, this is an effing dream, because USL is just like, hey, if each team wants to do what they want, it's up to them, as long as local codes allow and they follow rules.
2020 also a really good lesson in consent, by the way.
I like that, actually.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. That's good.
Do you want to do this? Do you want to do? Okay, then we'll do it. We'll do it with fans. Who cares? Do you not want to do this? Okay, great. Stay home. Watch it on TV.
I mean, that's an important thing, is no one has to go to a game, right? And so, you know, capitalism could decide all of this for us very quickly. Not that it hasn't had its say already. But each state, each club has to decide what their local government allows. And then USLPA has a whole bunch of rules on top of that everybody has to follow for safety for the players. Safety for the fans isn't quite as strongly said. If you heard the interview with Reuter, but you know, I think in St. Louis, the levels are pretty low. Our games are out in the suburbs where they're even lower. I'm going to go. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to go to one, and I'm going to pray that everyone's wearing their mask like they should. And if they're not, I will reevaluate and decide whether I think that's safe for me and my family. But if there's distancing, if they only bring in a certain percentage of the fans, and it sounds like that's the plan, to be honest, I'm going to give it a shot.
Well, so I guess the question, right, and this will kind of seg into the format. Each team is playing 16 games. We essentially get 8 home games over 13 weeks.
Phil, are you? I think I saw Reuter today saying that's. I think I saw something today from Reuter said he doesn't expect equal home and away for each team.
Fair enough.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, it's 12 games within the young group. Okay, so
so it'll be 6 and 6, and then whatever the out of conference.
I guess that depends on the states too. I have no idea. I'm sure the people that are making this schedule or attempting to don't even know how that's going to work yet. But anyway. So in theory, we'll say at best you get 6 home games, or on the average you'll get 6 home games. Phil, if you're going, are you waiting until you get 2 or 3 under the belt and seeing what happens as far as the numbers in your state go, or are you just going to be like, hey, it's live soccer, I'm going to
go? Actually, it would be really smart to wait a couple games. I wasn't going to be honest. I wasn't.
That's fair.
Yeah. I don't know.
But if you see on the schedule, like, oh, we play, I don't know, dates are dumb. I don't know. Hypothetically, we'll say like, oh,
week 1, let's say July 11th. Week 1 is Louisville, and then week 3 is Sporting Kansas City 2. Right. Do I wait for Louisville and for them to play Indy 11, and then I go to the SKC 2 game? That would be smart. That'd be really smart. If I feel like people are being safe, I'm actually going to consider that.
Look at that. Problem solving in real time here at the US Open.
That's the way things should work, right?
Pony,
instead of screaming at each other.
Any thoughts?
I mean, it makes sense if you are really interested in going to me to at least avoid to wait a week, see what the club actually does. I mean, to me, I think if clubs are saying, "Oh, you need a mask to come in," and if you take them off, who the heck cares? I'm not going to a game. But if a club does that and then says, "Hey, you took your mask off, you're gone for the entire season. I mean, give us your season ticket thing. You're not allowed in for any games for the remainder of the year." I'm like, okay, I might actually be willing to go to a second game if you're basically guaranteeing people wear masks. But what about food sales? What about beer sales? What about all that? I mean, it just, I don't see a way that for me, I'd feel safe actually going, especially as, I mean, for me, for my living situation, yeah, I'm by myself right now, but my parents live close by. I try to visit them at least once a week and bring them food or groceries and stuff like that. So I'm not going to go to a situation where I think there's actually there's a chance of me getting sick and possibly get my parents sick just because someone wasn't going to wear a mask. So if they're not going to take a very harsh chance, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
To me, that's the most important thing. I'm sorry, but
no, go for it, Phil.
It's good. This is going to rely on the fans. Like the clubs can do what they want. They can put up signs. We all saw, like in Missouri, at least we saw what Lake of the Ozarks did. They put up a whole bunch of banners and then everybody came in and did whatever the hell they want. And people got mad that no one like shut the whole party down, but short of shutting down the entire party, really, what is a club going to do? They're going to send a whole bunch of people to go stand in the aisles and ask people to put their masks on every 5 minutes.
Phil, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. Okay.
There is something every club can do. Alan, I'd love to get your thoughts. It's press box rules. Because apparently singing and chanting is a really great way to spread the virus. So everyone has to wear business casual, business formal attire, depending on what kind of compliments they want to get from their respective head coach after the match. Or players. Long sleeves are encouraged. You can roll them halfway to show your tattoos to try to get brownie points with the players. Only if they're good, not if they're bad. And then you can't really make any noise or tip your hand over who you're pulling for one way or the other, unless you're like kind of in with the comm staff and you sort of make jokes about
it. I think these are fair rules.
Alan, any thoughts?
So I can break out my corduroy jacket then?
Yes. And it's encouraged. And honestly, if you want to like light but not inhale a Lucky Strike cigarette around the locker room, I think that'll be okay too. Just for the ambiance.
What is the feeling of having to roll them yourself? Is that like bonus points?
Oh yeah.
You definitely get more like beat writer points, but I think you also gain more pretentious points.
100%.
Which, to be fair, you're in California already, so you might as well.
Especially if you get like the American Spirit tobacco that's all natural, and
that's like better for you.
Oh my gosh, it's the best.
And then I can talk about my vinyl collection during halftime.
There we go.
Hey, I have a vinyl collection. Okay, I got that taken care of.
You're like, well, whatever people say we are, that's what we're not, is so much better if you listen to it on vinyl,
I think we're putting this show out on vinyl, actually.
Are we putting the show? I'm good. I'm so glad that we finally got to get those pressed on 8-inch. The fidelity of my voice is just so much better when you can hear the grooves.
I'm just enjoying a chance of, I'm just enjoying a chance of an entire supporters group sitting in 3-piece suits smoking for the entire game.
Yeah.
What do you think, though, Alan? Like, let's talk about if they have the games and people go, like, where do we draw the line? How can they make a safer environment? How can the club do that?
To me, the three biggest times are entering, getting up, and leaving. And if teams can figure out how to do those three things safely, I think the game it's fine. But if you can't get people to stagger entrance and stagger leave, and then maybe not have concessions so people don't have to get up, or bring it to them, like I think those are the three biggest issues. Like looking at logistics for me, it's like everyone usually shows up at the same time and hangs out and does the pregame stuff. That's not going to be able to happen. And then do you have a rolling entrance where if you have this ticket, you have this 15-minute window to get into the stadium? Like that's the big issue.
And then how far out do you stagger your times? Like if the game's at 5 and you want me to show up at 3 at the gate, like that's Is it worth it for me? I don't know.
That's tough. Yeah. That's tough for me.
So let's talk format. And then we have a question from one of our Louisville boys about the groups.
Carson asked it, and he's on the live stream. Thanks, Carson.
Hi, Carson. So we're back to 5 subs, which, us being the USL Championship, sorry, the USL Pro purists that we are.
Yes.
Welcome home, everybody. Yeah. No longer will we have to put up with, oh, wait, didn't they use all their subs? After the 4th guy comes, after that Jamie Lucchini switch for your Bethlehem Steel.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
a name. For your Josh Hurd switch. No. It'll happen every 5 minutes now. What do you mean 4th sub? What is this? Concussion rule? No, Taylor. No, Mr. Twellman. It's just because everyone's out of shape.
Injuries.
Yeah.
Lots of games in a short amount of time.
You have 3 opportunities to make your subs during regular play, which is really funny. Subs may also be made at halftime without counting against those 3 in-game opportunities. So essentially, you can call 3 timeouts.
That's actually a wrinkle I didn't read about. That's good stuff right there.
Yep. And then the top... Sorry.
No, I'm glad the USL guys are getting comfortable again. We've been uncomfortable for a few years now, but now we're back to 5.
Yeah, I was really... The whole time when there was only 3 subs, I was just waiting for 2 more, And I would go through the last back half of games being like, where's the subs at? And then, whenever we talk to a player, like I talk to Brendan or whatever, the first question I always want to be like, well, why didn't you use your 4th and 5th sub? And then, someone went, hey, that's not how we work now. And I went, oh.
Yeah. Now Preki doesn't have to look at me with
minute 80 to the end of the game. Don't you miss going from minute 80 to the end of the game with like 2 minutes of soccer played?
Yeah.
Back to those times now.
Yeah. The top 2 teams from each group in the regular season in air quotes, will advance to the 2020 USL Championship playoffs, which produces a field of 16 teams overall in a regionalized single elimination bracket. Group winners will be paired with group runners-up in the round of 16, with home advantage being determined by record for the remainder of the bracket. So, winner of A faces runner-up to B. Winner B faces runner-up A. Repeat for C, D. And then same thing over on the Eastern Conference, which is all fine and dandy. But what are those groups and who's going to advance in them? Well, we'll talk about it. Starting alphabetically in the West with groups A, B, C, and D, because, West Coast bias there for that East Coast based league.
Thanks, Phoenix.
West Coast.
Yeah. Group A is Timbers 2, Reno, Sacramento Republic, and Tacoma Defiance. Group B, Los Dos, Vegas, New Look, Las Vegas Lights, Orange County, Phoenix Rising, San Diego Loyal. Group C, Colorado Springs, El Paso Locomotive, New Mexico United, and Real Monarchs. Group D, Austin, Oklahoma City, Rio Grande Valley, San Antonio, and FC Tulsa. I like 2 of these groups a lot more than I like the other 2.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
The lottery balls were kind to some teams and not so kind to some others.
Well, what's the group of death? This is the fun part, right? Pony, I think you should lead us off as is tradition. What's the group?
Yeah, at least for me, I calculated them all by saying, comparing to last year, which had the highest average points gained per game, and the group of death across all conferences is Group B. I mean, it's far better. I mean, the difference between Group B and the second best team, the second best group is about the same as the second best group to the worst group. I mean, it's a huge gap dropping down.
Yeah.
So how come though? Because you rated San Diego Loyal as average, right? So even them rated
I called
as
San
average.
Diego Loyal as average, and they ended up being, and that was about average of what the league was. But I mean, you're looking at a group that has a lot of top players, who has a lot of the top teams in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those where I'm trying to pull up real quick because I was not on that same computer as I am now when I wrote that. But I mean, Phoenix was by and far the best regular season team.
Mm-hmm.
You also have Orange County, who again, I mean, honestly, it was one of my hot takes, but I think Orange County could be a top 3 team in the entire league, not just West Coast, the entire outright league.
Yeah.
And they're sharing a conference with teams who are not bad. I mean, think about it. I mean, LA was a playoff team last year, and I mean, who knows what's going to happen with the MLS2 teams? I could see them being all good or all horrible this year.
Right.
I mean, I think it comes down to how their parent club does in the tournament. Because let's say LA is done after 2 games in the tournament, what's going to stop them sitting down their bench players for the next 2 months? But at the same time, if they do good, they're just going to pull up all these young guys, and their team's going to suck.
And I think that MLS sides are going to have they will bring as many guys as they can. I know Jim Curtin said Jack DeVries is probably going to make a debut for Union, and that's a dude that probably had Union 2 written on him all year if things were normal. Much as we like Jack, it's just minutes.
That's just my fears. One of the teams freshes out immediately, and then, well, you're going to keep your kids and your bench players just in a training camp for the next month and a half, or you're going to send them to play USL games.
Yeah,
I think this is going to benefit the teams who are bad the most, because they're going to get all their kids released.
Yeah.
Well, the rumor was that MLS2 teams weren't even going to play in this tournament, which is understandable after MLS teams decided to do it. Yeah, but here we are. And so I think the new rumor, and it is still rumor, but the new rumor is all those middle to good players on 2 teams are going to go play with the first team, and then we're going to just see straight up U19 teams on the 2 sides.
I imagine that's what happens.
Yeah, at least for the first month or so.
I don't know if they have a choice though, right? In their defense, they have to.
If your goal is the parent club gets better,
right?
And it was U19. It's gonna feel a lot worse this year.
I think I would go as far as to say that I'm actually really excited. I'm even more excited about MLS because they're going to be forced to play the kids, and as a USL
or at least
guy,
you're gonna have to rotate the kids.
Yeah, they got to get some time. Yeah. But as a USL guy, I'm rooting for those kids, so I'm really excited to see them get more of a chance than they otherwise would have. So this is good in my opinion. I'm excited.
Who's the throwaway group here?
Group A is pretty bad.
Group A is not great.
I think Group A with Sacramento Arena going through is probably the biggest lock of the entire tournament.
I'm excited
D,
to
it's
see
who is with D.
If Tulsa hadn't improved, D would be absolute crap. But
I actually do have D as the worst group out there, but I think it's complete just crap for who makes it through. Because I mean, I think San Antonio's through. I think RGV's dead. But apart from that, I mean, I could see Austin or OKC or Tulsa even taking a spot.
It's a momentum game. This is all going to feel like the sprint to the playoff. I mean, because it is, but it's going to be, you get your first game and you're okay. I don't think there's going to be a lot of pretty soccer to be had the first week, but it's the first match, I guess. But if you win it and you can build off of that confidence a little bit, you might be all right.
So are we only talking West right now? Because
we can switch to East because I need a segue.
said, well, effectively for me, those two groups I mentioned were the best and worst out of all East and West overall for me.
I don't know, man. If Red Bulls 2 doesn't have a good supply of players, if Philadelphia Union 2 doesn't have a good supply of players, Group F is pretty terrible outside.
I think Group F is going to be bad.
I think so too.
I think that's going to be like.
I think you have to consider the Red Bulls good until they actually don't look good.
Yeah, I mean that's
totally the floor for that team? Like play-in level is their floor.
Well, like
sad,
and
but true.
Union 2's head coach was very much like, well, we've been doing things individually that people haven't seen and that we think are unique and are going to give us a bit of an edge. So they're confident a little bit. But I mean, like, regardless, Hounds are on top. And then do I think that any of these teams have a chance against the winner of Group E? Hell no. What, they get fed to Louisville or Indy? Like, no.
You mean St. Louis is what you meant.
I appreciate your ability to support your team.
Hey guys, we took out Miami pretty hard in week 1. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Speaking of, actually, Group H in the East is kind of tricky. If you take away Atlanta United.
Yeah, I think so too. Only because
I think it's one.
Yeah, I think Charleston.
I mean, makes the East unique.
Go ahead.
I think that's what makes the East unique is each division has like 3 teams that could do well.
Yeah,
so, like,
and then like
one of the teams is out. Yeah, and I think they did a pretty decent job of kind of balancing them to make it not be like Group A in the West.
Yeah.
The East seems to be a little bit more balanced as far as competitiveness, and there's I can see at least 3 teams from each of these groups getting through their little mini tournament.
Yeah,
there are teams like Charleston Battery and teams like Austin Bold. Like both of those teams are really hard to beat on the right days, and it's interesting because each group could have this like totally, you know how East is considered like compact and defensive, and then the West is open and attacking. Like each little tiny group is going to have its own little thing. And if someone like Charleston Battery can just figure out how to sit back and pick their chances against teams like Miami and Tampa Bay, they're almost built to beat teams like that on a regular basis, especially in like a World Cup type format. Like that kind of team can really thrive.
And what'll be interesting is now, and I mean it's still hard because you'll be traveling a little bit quicker in a week than you normally would, but you don't have the let's say Riverhounds. You don't have go to Hartford, play Sunday, come home, play home Thursday, and then play or Wednesday. Like you don't have like a Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday where you're like up Northeast, home, and then down in Charleston. So I wonder if in a way the like lighter travel schedule is going to be a hindrance to those teams that kind of like to sit back and play the counter.
Interesting. I wonder.
Because people might be just a little bit fresher. Just a little bit.
Yeah, could totally see
and
it.
draws don't do anybody anything too is the other thing. I really don't think draws help anybody at all in these games.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Loyal Vegas draw at the beginning of the season is going to be a huge detriment to whether or not any of those teams can give OC and Phoenix a run for their money.
What's the team by team for Group F?
I say, well, at least the other thing that's interesting for me is Group G out east, which is the Birmingham, Charlotte, Memphis, North Carolina. I think that's probably the luckiest group of all because I think all these teams are bottom half teams. I don't think that we have any solid good team in that group.
I mean,
it's one of those where it's like I look at it like maybe North Carolina could be okay, maybe Birmingham could be okay, but Memphis isn't all that great. Charlotte hasn't looked all that great in the last few years. I mean, and then they have the other stuff we talked about, which probably is going to affect them a little bit, at least mentally. But that's the one I look at and go, for same as like a Group D out west, where the 2 teams who get out of there would probably not have got out of there in most other groups.
Yeah. I was going to defend Birmingham Legion because they did pick up some guys. You know, Nico Brett is there. J.J. Williams is gone, though. North Carolina always looks really good. Charlotte, I think, since they got Dane Kelly there, like, I think he could be the final piece for them to be okay this year. So I think a lot of them, I would say Group G is like, normally you'd look at that group and be like, this group's pretty crappy, but I do think there's been enough upgrades where it's super. I think it's super interesting, actually.
It'll be interesting, but I think Group G loses both their first round playoff games.
Yeah, I have found the pitch for Group F.
Let's hear it.
New coaches.
Oh, give us more, please.
Radhi Jadai, Hartford. Ryan Martin at Loudoun. And Sven Gartung at Philadelphia Union 2 are all guys that have either played one game with their new outlets or zero. So if you like watching new coaches have to figure out what they want to do really quickly, Group F is for you.
That's also what's fun about Group B. Is watching Vegas try to figure their lives out in the middle of this tournament.
Funny.
Listen, you could do a lot worse than, they did a lot worse than Frank Yallop before. So
the question when all they get the llamas in the, I said, when all they get the llamas in the divorce, or does the team get to keep them?
You know,
no, but I heard they paid his severance pay through helicopter.
Yeah,
they just dropped the money from the helicopter and had him run and pick up.
Yeah.
Winaldo was almost the perfect coach for a team like Vegas, where he's a little bit of crazy, but I mean, the guy, he improved them this year, you know, and that's a tough job at Vegas, in my opinion. But
I think the Skype credits roll over to the team, though. So that's nice.
I like it. I like it. But yeah, I mean, like, Yallop, can he shed the craziness that is that ownership? You know what I mean? Like, Yallop can do some good things with that team, but is he going to be allowed to, is the question in my opinion.
He's a good coach. He is very much not Eric Winalda, and that I don't think the first thing people talk about when they talk about Frank Yallop in a good way is his personality. And I'm kind of okay with that. I think they just need to hire a GM to take some of the weight off of Frank Yallop's shoulders, which I don't know who that'll be, or if they're going to do that. But I'm like Frank Yallop is not a bad coach, and I don't think that's a bad move, especially in the long term for Vegas. Short term, I don't know if it'll pay off because that's not his team. He didn't build that team, and we know how that goes. But I think if you look at it from a, hey, we need some consistency here, like, Vegas is doing okay.
Agree.
I say quick, just, I guess, one or the other. Who do you think is going to benefit more from this long break? The offensive teams or the defensive teams?
Offensive, 100%.
Yeah. If you're not a team that finds your offensive rhythm easily, it's going to be a lot harder to do it now, I think.
Dude, I think if you watch the first games from Bundesliga and Premier League, like, the defense was pretty bad week 1, and then it got a little better next week. In third week, it was pretty close to normal somehow. That's impressive, but
we might be we might be a little ambitious if we're expecting these guys to come up to normalcy in a month, but
pray you get Riverhounds week 1, I guess, is what I'm saying.
No, not if it's
best
at home.
chance.
You don't want to play on.
I don't think you want to see him ever.
Well,
you hope someone else eliminates the Riverhounds.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of teams in the East that just won't have to play the Riverhounds this year, which is probably nice.
Well, Evan, we're closing in on an hour. I think before we go, you're wearing your Play the Kids vintage shirt. I'm wearing my what am I wearing? I forgot what it's called.
Wow.
Playing for Pride.
Well, that's a rainbow shirt, Phil.
Well, it's the Playing for Pride shirt that BGN did a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But it's that month, man. I think you should talk about it a little bit if you don't mind.
It is the end of that month. Happy Pride Month, everybody. Oh, there's so many like non-for-profits and things that I want to talk about. I guess the ones that you should definitely look into that have a USL slant. Austin Deleuze, former North Carolina FC captain and gentleman, started or has been a very big proponent of Athlete Ally and playing for Pride, which has been altered this year because no one played any games. But definitely feel free to donate to Athlete Ally. They're a wonderful not-for-profit that wants to make the sports world more inclusive for anybody in the LGBTQ plus, because it's so many letters now that I just can't remember all of them off the top of my head, which is my fault. But anybody in the LGBTQ plus community that is in the soccer world that wants to be safer and things like that, Athlete Ally is a really good place to do that. If you're looking for something a little more national scale, the HRC, the Human Rights Campaign, is always a very good place on which to donate. And then if I can plug a Philadelphia-based one, the William Way Foundation, which is a wonderful LGBT community center on 1315 Spruce Street in one of my favorite cities in the world, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So go check those guys out as well, for sure. I've been fortunate enough that I grew up as a white suburban kid who is very much butch and didn't have a ton of problems growing up. And I know that is a very atypical upbringing. I don't have to look very far in my own apartment to see other upbringings that were a little bit more difficult than mine. So, the cliche is that it gets better, and it does, but I don't think that has a whole lot of weight behind it when you have to wait, 8 to 10 years for it to get really comfortable. So if for whatever reason this finds the ears or hands of LGBTQ plus youth, I will say that you are very much a valid person with valid opinions, valid ideas, and that if anyone tries to take them away from you, I hope they don't sleep at night. You just keep doing yourself, baby, and you'll be fine.
Love it. Thanks, Evan. That was good.
Yeah, no worries, bud. Anytime. You know me, I don't like to have my opinions publicly put out on this podcast at all. At all. Never. Why would I do that? I'm the president of Antifa, because that's a thing. Hey, if you want to follow this podcast, you're more than welcome to do so at the USL Show. If you want to hear any more of my opinions that are mine and not reflective of the league that the show borrows a name from, or the network that it is a part of, which is the Beautiful Game Network podcast, or our wonderful sponsors, Roughneck Scarves, Icarus FC, you can do that too. It's at Speak Evan Speak, because I don't know how not to. Phil, where can people find you on the internet?
At Phil Grooms on Twitter. 2 L's, 2 O's. There it is.
Yeah. He's one of my favorite people.
Oh my God.
If not one of my favorite people from the greater St. Louis area. It's a hard act to follow, I know. Pony, where can people find you on the internet? And in case they forgot, where can the USL people go to put your Twitter handle in a welcoming packet for their interns and tell them it's okay, we know who he is?
Yes, I am always on Twitter at USL_pony.
Yeah. Still my favorite story that Ryan Madden has ever told me. Alan, where can people find you and your things on the internet?
A_Underwood48 on the Twitter machines.
There you go. Why 48?
It was a number before I broke.
Fair enough. Sometimes
48
there's
years
meaning,
old.
other times there's nothing. Yeah. He was born in 1948, everybody. Alan Underwood, the oldest man on the podcast scene right now. Why are they still called podcasts? No one uses iPhones.
Anyway. Like a pea pod?
Like a pea. Y'all talking about them knit shows? This is what Alan
this happens to go for over an hour.
Camera.
Sorry.
We promise. We promise. Anyway, until next week, take care, everybody, and we will talk to you soon. Cool. So